Hi, Kipsters. Welcome back to another day of reading. Yesterday we read A Lost Button, which is a chapter inside of Frog and Toad Are Friends. And Kipsters, one of the reasons we're doing a chapter book this last month of school is because you are so close to second grade. And in second grade, you're going to start reading so many chapter books because you all have become really great readers. If you didn't watch the video yesterday, you need to pause this video now and go back and listen to the story, or you can read the story on your own on getepic.com. But you need to hear the story or read the story before we do this lesson. Today, we're going to identify the problem and the smaller problems, and then we're going to make a chart. So you're going to need your piece of paper and a pencil pretty early in this video. If you don't have one, pause this video and go grab it now. Kipsters, good readers can identify the problem and solution in a story. Trying to figure out what the problem is and what the character does to solve the problem will help you understand and remember the story better. And sometimes the problem and solution actually teaches us a lesson. Sometimes there's something that we need to learn that the characters learn. Before we go back and check out our story today, we need to make a chart. Now, I have one on the computer screen, but you're going to need to make this on your paper. So the first thing that you're going to do is write button number at the top on the left-hand side. That's going to look like this. And Kipsters, to make sure that I have enough room to write everything, I turned my paper on its side like this. So go ahead and write button number now. And then the next thing that we're going to write is problem with button. And that's where we're going to write what problem did Toad have with each button that he found. So Kipsters, I drew a line after button number and then I wrote problem with button. So go ahead and write that on your paper. The next thing that you're going to write is his button. And this is where we're going to tell what he told us his button looked like. Go ahead and write his button on your chart. So you should have button number, problem with button, and his button at the top of your paper. Now, Kipsters, for this next part, you don't have to write button every time. You can just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to put my paper down and draw my lines. So now my paper looks just like the chart on the computer here. If you haven't finished making your chart, pause this video. You can use this screen to copy the words and the numbers, and then you can push play as soon as you have your chart ready because you're going to be writing in it while we're working through the story to find some details. All right, Kipsters, so we have to look for the first button that they find. "Here is your button," cried Frog. And then Toad said, "That is not my button. That button is black. My button was white." So Kipsters, thinking right now, what does the first button look like that Frog finds? Yeah, it's black. And what color was Toad's button? It's white. Very good. So we're going to write that in our chart. So this is our very first button that Toad found. And the problem with this button is it's black. And what does Toad tell us about his button? He says, my button was white. Very good. Kipsters, you should be filling in your chart as we go along. Let's turn to the next page. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow, "did you lose a button? I found one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button had 4 holes." Okay, Kipsters, we found another answer. What is the problem with this button? Yeah, it only has 2 holes. So right now on your chart, you're going to write 2 holes under problem. And what did his button look like? What did he tell Sparrow? He said, "My button had 4 holes." So go ahead and write that on your chart. So now we have our second button. And Kipsters, we could do one extra thing here. We could write who found the button. So we know that Frog found the first one and Sparrow found the second one. And it had 2 holes, but Toad was looking for his button, which had 4 holes. Let's keep going. They went back to the woods and looked on the dark paths. "Here is your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," cried Toad. "That button is small. My button was big." Kipsters, what's the problem with this button? Yeah, it's small. So go ahead and fill that in on your paper. And what did Toad's button look like? What did he tell Frog that he needed his button to be? Yeah, his button is big. Go ahead and write that down. All right, Kipsters, we have finished 3 of our buttons already. Frog found the 3rd button, and Toad told us it's too small. My button is big. So far, we know quite a few things about Toad's button. We know that it's white, that it has 4 holes, and that it's big. Let's find out what the last 2 details are for Toad's button. So now we're reading about Raccoon. Can you read on the page to find out the problem with the button that Raccoon finds? Go ahead and read on this page right here and see if you can figure out the problem of the raccoon's button. Yeah, you found it. This button is square. And what does Toad tell Raccoon? He says, "My button was round." Great. Take a few seconds to fill in column number 4. So first, you're going to write raccoon. And if you need help spelling raccoon, it's right here on the screen. And then you're going to tell us what was the problem with this button and what does Toad's button actually look like. All right, Kipsters, we have one more button to fill in. It looks like Frog found this button, and it's right here on this page. So we're going to write Frog beside of number 5 because he's the one who found it. And let's see if you can find it again. What's the problem with this last button? That button is thin, thin. And what does Toad say to Frog? His button was thick. Very good. Take a few seconds to fill in column number 5 in your chart. Kipsters, your chart should be completely filled in. I'm going to go ahead and fill it in on the screen while you finish up your thoughts. Okay, Kipsters, so we should have our chart all filled in. And Kipsters, you're going to want to keep this chart somewhere safe this week because we're not finished with it yet. Now that we've finished our chart, you're going to do one more thing today. You're going to write one sentence about Toad's button. And you can use your chart for this. We have 5 details about Toad's button right here on our chart. So you're going to write Toad's button was, and you're going to tell us the 5 details that we found out about Toad's button. Make sure to use commas between each of your details. And we'll see you for reading tomorrow.